බිස්කට් වේදිකාවට දැන් පැමිණි සීඝ්‍රගාමී රසයේ මංචි පොටේටෝ ක්‍රැකර්. බිස්කට් වේදිකාවට දැන් පැමිණි සීඝ්‍රගාමී රසයේ මංචි පොටේටෝ ක්‍රැකර්.
On satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Gunfight in Negombo. Exchange of fire between criminals and STF in Kurana. 4 suspects arrested. Interest in Matala. Government of India ready to invest $205 million in the Matala International Airport. Law and order. Minister Sagar Ratnayake says the police is ready to eradicate the underworld and drug mafia. In cricket, Sri Lanka fight back to send India to stumps at 329 for 6. And in international headlines, Donald Trump says the US is locked and loaded in case of an attack by North Korea. Good evening, I'm Katharina Chang and welcome to First at 9 right here on Other Derana 24/7. A shooting incident took place at Kurana in Negombo today between a criminal gang and a special task force unit. 2 injured suspects have been admitted to the Colombo North Teaching Hospital in Ragama and 2 other suspects have been arrested by the police. The shooting took place around 5:15 p.m. this evening. Following a tip-off that members of a gang were travelling towards Colombo from Chilau, Special Task Force officials had followed the vehicle before the suspects fired at the unit. 2 suspects were injured in the exchange of fire and were initially admitted to Sidhu Hospital before being transferred to the Colombo North Teaching Hospital in Ragama. Police announced that 2 other suspects have been arrested and that 2 T-56 rifles and revolver were also found. India's national newspaper The Hindu today reported India's interest in operating Sri Lanka's second international airport at Matala in Hambantota. The report comes less than 2 weeks after the government signed a $1.1 billion deal with China over the Hambantota port.
The article, titled India Keen to Run Sri Lanka Airport, reveals that India has proposed an investment of $205 million in the Matala International Airport project. The article highlights India's interest in the Matala Airport, about 40 kilometers from the strategic Hambantota port, in which China holds a majority stake. India proposes to operate, manage, maintain and develop the airport through a joint venture, holding 70% of the equity for 40 years. India is to invest $205 million in the venture, while Sri Lanka would pitch in the balance of $88 million. The article also highlights how Hambantota is poised to become a hub of rival strategic interests in the Indian Ocean region, with India's interest in running the Matala Rajapaksa International Airport and China's involvement with the Hambantota port. Earlier this week, the Sri Lankan government cleared Civil Aviation Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva's request for a committee to study the Indian government's proposal. Following an event in Kandy today, Minister of Special Assignment Dr. Sarath Amunugama expressed his views on the matter.
It doesn't matter whether it's a Sri Lankan or not, someone has to restart the shutdown Matala airport. They should make use of it. Otherwise, we'd have to use public money to maintain this. These are loss-making institutes. And if the public doesn't like the idea, they should prepare to pay taxes.
President Maithripala Sirisena emphasizes of the need to establish a moral political culture within the country. He made the remark at an event held in Talava today.
The presentation of 6,200 title deeds to the lands of the farming community in the Mahaweli H zone was held under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena today. The event was held as part of the national program to present 100,000 title deeds to Mahaweli settlers.
There was a time in this country when fraudulent activities and corruption were carried out from the top of the hierarchy to the bottom. That's why there are so many problems when trying to eradicate these things. People have gotten used to them, making them difficult to get rid of. Every politician starts their career with the hope of putting an end to it, but after some time they too get accustomed to it. That's the sort of political culture this country has. That is why the public is blaming everyone. It is necessary to establish a good political culture and to encourage politicians and state officials to be honest and moral. All of us must unite despite criticism to build this culture within the country.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that for the first time in the world, a government is considering bringing a no-confidence motion against one of its own ministers. The former president made the remark during a wide-ranging address at the event by the Sri Lanka Podujanu Peramuna in Kandy today.
Good governance has become a joke today. Look at Minister Ravi Karnanayaka. The Commission of Inquiry was appointed for some other purpose, but it was Ravi who emerged from it. Is this an attempt to let Ravi take the blame and let the others connected to the bond scam off, or to make people forget about it? When observing all this, however, it is clear that others have stepped forward to protect Ravi. Ravi himself is pointing fingers at other ministers over various other deals, including the Hambantota port deal. Inquiries should be made into those matters too. When Vijayadasa Rajapaksa raised his voice against these issues, a no-confidence motion was discussed by the government against one of its own ministers, probably for the first time in the world. Now Vijayadasa says that if he wins the no-confidence motion, the government should step down. As such, I presume that the no-confidence motion will not be brought up. It is time for us to rally together and end the era touted by the government as good governance.
Meanwhile, a number of politicians expressed their views on the possible no-confidence motion against Minister of Justice and Buddha Sasana Vijayadasa Rajapaksa.
He spoke directly for the country even on the Hambantota port issue and is thus facing the possibility of a no-confidence motion. We hope to support him if a no-confidence motion is brought, as he stands on the country's side. A meeting of the governing party and a proposal to remove Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa from his post is sufficient. Why bother with a no-confidence motion? This is a manifestation of the crisis within the government. The possible no-confidence motion brought against Minister of Justice Vijayadasa Rajapaksa by the backbenchers of the government does not mention the Hambantota port at all. This no-confidence motion is on the Justice Minister's failure to fulfill his responsibilities. That is all. If he has any self-respect, he should turn over his responsibilities to someone who can fulfill them and go home. I think Minister Vijayadasa should not be held responsible for this. However, delays did occur. It is best if Minister Vijayadasa and others unite to expedite the cases.
Minister of Law and Order Sagar Ratnayaka says new measures have been taken to eradicate drugs with the blessings of President Maithripala Sirisena. The minister made these remarks participating in a drug prevention program held at the Bambalapitiya Police Ground organised by the National Youth Services Council.
The National Youth Services Council organised a drug prevention program themed No Drugs via Youth at the police ground in Bambalapitiya under the patronage of the Minister of Law and Order and Southern Development, Sagala Ratnayaka. The program was held after a march beginning at Independence Square, and Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara was also present at the event. The new website of the National Youth Services Centre was also launched by Minister Sagala Ratnayaka.
It is everybody's responsibility to ensure the younger generation remains drug-free. Drug trafficking has become a huge problem in the country. Drugs, the underworld and organised crime go hand in hand. We need international support to disrupt this process. A new division will be created in the police to eradicate drugs. We have also got the President's approval in this regard.
The inaugural ceremony of the tri-language training program for parliamentarians were held at the Parliament yesterday. Speaker Karujaya Surya, Minister of National Coexistence, Dialogue and Official Languages Mano Ganeshan and several others were present at the occasion.
The program was implemented with the aim of providing MPs with the ability to handle all three languages. Minister of Official Languages Mano Ganeshan says that this will provide the opportunity to solve problems by discussing the issues of people from all parts of the country.
As Tamil is considered a national language, we should learn it, because we will have to live in a different environment in future. National unity is very important. We were able to gain independence as all these races were united. I think these languages should be taught in every part of the country. I must say that this course is nationally important. If the language policy is properly implemented, if the MPs can learn languages, 51% of the national problem of this country will be solved. The solution for the national problem should be the devolution of power, but 51% of that problem can be solved. We are getting the opportunity to live as a family. No matter what obstacles we come across, we will achieve our goals.
A collective of civil organizations plan to organize a Satyagraha campaign in Colombo demanding that the government keeps its pledges made during elections 2 years ago. Representatives from the Centre for Policy Alternatives, the international movement against all forms of discrimination and racism, families of the disappeared, National Peace Council and several other organizations addressed the media this morning.
Local government elections in this country have been postponed for years. Now there is a suggested amendment to the Constitution to ensure that provincial council elections are all held on the same day. There are serious concerns here with regard to basic democratic rights and entitlements. Serious concerns also with regard to the impact of such decisions in respect of devolution. Is there a serious commitment to devolution? Is there a serious commitment to local democracy? What we need, I think, is a very clear restatement of that commitment. So it's time that the government, and indeed the other political parties too, because they have a role to play in this as well, wake up and recognize the democratic aspirations and expectations that were legitimately raised in 2015 are not to be disappointed.
We are disappointed at the slow pace of other reforms that we anticipated. The main ones are a solution to the ethnic conflict, to address the roots that led to war. That has still to happen. We are also disappointed at the slow pace of dealing with the past, with the problems of missing persons, compensating the victims, ensuring that the past will not happen again. And thirdly, we are also very disappointed about the corruption.
The National Force to Protect the Rights of War Heroes says that they will engage in a continuous hunger strike until President Maithripala Sirisena provides a solution to their demands. They were protesting opposite the Fort railway station for the 5th consecutive day today.
The Defence Ministry yesterday allowed protesters to meet with the Secretary of the Ministry, and accordingly 5 of their representatives engaged in a discussion. After discussions, a section of disabled war heroes decided to end their hunger strike and left the location. Chairman of the National Force to Protect the Rights of War Heroes, U.D. Vasantha, however, says that mere verbal assurance by the Ministry's Secretary is not sufficient. Therefore, the rest of the protesters continued their hunger strike for a 5th consecutive day today.
I am making a special request to the President. We will leave this place as soon as we receive a signed document by the Secretary to the President with solutions to our demands. We took this decision because we didn't want to disrupt the daily lives of the public by closing down roads.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
Residents staged a protest today against the recommencement of operations at 16 quarries located in Noorani Estate in Mepe. The quarries, which were shut down 5 months ago, are to reopen next week. Residents marched from Pituampe Purvaramaya in Dekaduvala to Mepe Junction. Ancient maps believed to be used by prehistoric man to locate water sources were discovered in the Badahena caves in Pinnagala by the postgraduate faculty of the Kelaniya University. The Badahena caves are 6,000 years old and are believed to have once been cave dwellings. Train drivers attached to the Maradana division launched a token strike at 10 o'clock this morning against the failure of authorities to get rid of pests in their restrooms. Train drivers and employees engaged in cleaning their quarters and canteens and resumed their duties after 1.5 hours. A ceremony was held to hand over shelter material to 150 flood victims in Karavita today. The project was organized by GEN under the distribution of shelter materials for people displaced from floods and landslides in Ratnapura district in collaboration with the government of Japan.
Recent couple of years, in Sri Lanka, there are so many disasters, and every time Japanese government has extended some multiple waves of support.
Starting tomorrow, I hope they will start building the temporary shelter kits to move in to spend more comfortable life until they may move to the permanent houses.
The New York Stock Exchange has emerged as the front-runner for the main foreign listing of Saudi Arabian oil giant Aramco. Reuters reports that the NYSE remains favourite despite some financial and legal advisors to Saudi Arabia's rulers recommending London or Hong Kong as less problematic and risky options.
About 5% of Aramco will be up for sale, and it could be the world's largest initial public offering, raising tens of billions of dollars. Alibaba's $25 billion IPO is the current title holder. The money raised will help diversify the Saudi economy away from oil. However, the decision will be up to one of the country's rulers, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who oversees the kingdom's economic and energy policies. He said the IPO will value the company at a minimum of $2 trillion.
If it's all production, it's a great IPO that everybody wants to be involved in, especially if crude oil is trading $50 right now and crude oil eventually goes to $80 or $100, it would be a grand slam. On the other hand, if it's all pipelines that are moving crude oil around the country and that's all that it encompasses, it's going to be closer to $1 trillion.
Meanwhile, bearish stock investors are slowly coming out of hibernation as money has begun to move into funds that aim to profit when markets dive. US mutual funds that attempt to profit in falling markets attracted $413 million in new investments during the second quarter of 2017. The fund's largest inflow since the height of 2013 sell-off. On Thursday, the S&P 500 experienced its first 1% plus drop in 58 trading days. The selling pressure in stocks follows a frustrating year-to-date for bearish stock investors, given that the S&P was up 10.5% since the 31st of December.
Live in London, the dog can live in San Francisco. Process. So we just got on. This is all Goldman Sachs, Spear leads. $30,000 offered at 21 cents right now. Right. Let's give you a name up now. Thank you very much. A broker, of course, has his orders, but he's always looking up to get his cent.
India won their third toss in a row in the third test against Sri Lanka in Pallekele this morning and looked to be in the driver's seat following a 188-run opening partnership with a second century of the series for Shikhar Dhawan. Sri Lanka fought back after lunch, taking 6 wickets for 141 runs to send India to stumps at 329 for the loss of 6 wickets.
India's third consecutive victory in the toss came after 2 mammoth first-inning scores at Galle and the SSE, and Shikhar Dhawan and KL Rahul gave them the perfect start. Rahul scored his 7th successive half-century before departing in the 40th over off the bowling of Malinda Pushpakumara, who then dismissed centurion Dhawan for 119. Lakshman Sandakan got rid of the dangerous Cheteshwar Pujara as Sri Lanka's left-armers started to run riot. Ajinkya Rahane was Pushpakumara's 3rd wicket for 17 before Sandakan claimed the prize scalp of Indian captain Virat Kohli for 42. With India on the defensive, Ravichandran Ashwin fell for 31 before Riddhiman Saha and Hardik Pandya saw India to stumps at 329 for 6.
Wonderful catch for 6.
18-year-old Canadian Denis Shapovalov continued his amazing run yesterday with another 3-set victory to join Roger Federer in the semi-finals of the Rogers Cup in Montreal. Federer, who has won more titles on the ATP Tour than any of his fellow professionals, with 5 this year, defeated Roberto Bautista in straight sets.
Denis Shapovalov entered the tournament ranked 143rd in the world but will move into the top 100 after defeating unseeded Frenchman Adrien Manarino 2-6, 6-3, 6-4. World number 3 Roger Federer was never seriously pushed by Spain's Roberto Bautista, opening the second set with a break and cruising through the match 6-4, 6-4. German favourite Alexander Zverev recorded his second win inside a week against South Africa's Kevin Anderson 7-5, 6-4. It was Zverev's 44th match win of the season and he has now strung together 8 consecutive victories as he seeks a 5th title to draw level with Roger Federer.
We will join you with the international news after this break. The war of words between Pyongyang and Washington continues to escalate, with US President Donald Trump tweeting that America's military is locked and loaded in case of an attack by North Korea. Later addressing media in New Jersey, Trump added that the US could impose even stronger sanctions on North Korea.
This man will not get away with what he's doing, believe me. Or if he does anything with respect to Guam or any place else that's an American territory or an American ally, he will truly regret it.
US President Donald Trump also spoke to Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping, who urged Trump and North Korea to avoid words and actions that worsen tensions. Similarly, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Moscow is deeply worried by the exchange of threats.
The rhetoric in Washington and Pyongyang is now starting to go over the top. Direct threats of force are expressed and it worries us a lot. We hope that common sense will eventually prevail.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news across the world.
Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta has been re-elected for a second and final term following Tuesday's election. Kenyatta secured 54.3% of votes ahead of his rival Raila Odinga with 44.7%. The opposition, however, rejected the results even before they were declared, and protests have begun in parts of the country. 2 passenger trains collided in northern Egypt, killing at least 41 people and injuring more than 120 others. A number of carriages were derailed by the accident, which occurred in the coastal city of Alexandria. A probe has been ordered into the deaths of 64 children over the past 6 days in a state-run hospital in northern India. The victims ranged from infants to 12-year-olds, and the deaths have been attributed to disruption in the supply of liquid oxygen after a private supply withdrew its equipment over unpaid hospital dues. Releasing a statement, hospital authorities termed the allegations misleading. The world's oldest man, Israel Crystal, has passed away at the age of 113, just a month before he was due to turn 114. Born in Poland, Crystal was the only member of his immediate family to survive the Holocaust, after which he migrated to Israel. He was officially recognized as the world's oldest man by the Guinness Book of Records in March last year.
It's time now to take a look at what the weather holds for the next 24 hours. There's a high possibility of afternoon thunder showers in the eastern, over northern and north-central provinces. Cloudy skies can also be expected over most parts of the island. Here's your city-by-city weather forecast. And before we go, we'd like to take you to the Pacific island of Tahiti, where the World Surf League Men's Championship got underway yesterday. Surfers from across the world faced tough but exhilarating conditions as they rode the rolling waves of the Pacific Ocean. It's a pleasure having you with us. Have a pleasant evening ahead.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Ada Derana 24/7.